Thank you, everyone, for waiting. Welcome, Mr. Goyal. We have been waiting to launch this book in your presence, so may I now request you to come up onto the stage, please? Nalin, we'd also like Mr. Harivanshi to be part of this photo op and unveiling.
So the point of this was that we have the leader of the House of the Rajya Sabha and the deputy chairman both here. The Rajya Sabha is supposed to be the house of great debate, so we thought we are very fortunate to have both of them here.
How sad that he has to say it's supposed to be that. कैमरामैन ने अपना नाम पीछे लिखना चाहिए तो स्किल बोलना पड़ेगा.
So what we thought we'll do is we'll do two conversations today. So Betty, we'll do two kinds of conversations today. We'll do the first one with Piyush ji, the Minister for Commerce. He holds several important portfolios. He's also the leader of the upper house, has held other important portfolios in the past before his three current ones. So we thought we will have a conversation with him on his point of view on where digital is going, where India's Techade is going, and so on. And thereafter, we'll open it up for a second conversation with people who are making the difference on the ground, leaders in the tech domain, Indian leaders, and also for a social perspective, the Harivanshi to start off that from that. So that's what we'll do after that. But Piyush ji, first of all, you said that the Rajya Sabha is supposed to be the house of great debate.
I didn't say that. You said that.
Right. Actually, you're right. The journalist's job to kind of exaggerate things, right? So, what I wanted to ask you is that this book, India's Techade. Now, that word Techade is something which the Prime Minister has been talking about for 2 years now. It means different things to different people. You have said in the past that we have now reached a new dimension in digital in the economy in your role as minister. What does Techade mean to you, sir?
First of all, congratulations, Mr. Mehta. Really delighted to be here. More particularly because I had the good fortune to read your first book where you clinically analyzed the new BJP and how it has evolved in the last few years to become the world's largest political party. And I was very interested at the change of dimension from a book about the political party to a book about India's role in the world when it comes to digital engagement, growing our digital economy beyond our frontiers, our borders, and how today we have found our place in the sun, if I may say so, in terms of the foray that India has made in digital payments. We have Vijay Shekhar Sharma here in terms of our digital public goods, which have become the talk of the world. And as I think of India's Techade and why the Honorable Prime Minister coined this, I'll just draw from a conversation I had just before coming here. I was with all the press friends, and there are a number of friends here from the press too. About 250 press persons accompanied me to the Bharat Mandapam before I came here. The Bharat Mandapam, as many of you may be aware, is where our G20 summit Leaders Summit is going to be held on the 9th and 10th of next month. Truly world class. How does that happen? That's a sad commentary on digital. I mean, my hands were off, everything was off, and an emergency call dialing.
It's maybe Mr. Sharma's devices.
And I hadn't even set an alarm, let me tell you. Why I was referring to the Bharat Mandapam was that over there, somebody asked me, why India? And I said, it's a 30-30-30 story. It was an informal conversation, of course. The world today recognizes that in the next 30 years, India will add 30 trillion to our economy. I personally believe it will happen in the next 24 years. And we'll be a $35 trillion economy by 2047. We are 3.75 trillion today. It's the largest opportunity today anywhere in the world. And no time in history has any nation seen this kind of an opportunity, where you grow from 3.5 to 35 trillion in less than 3 decades. The second element is our population, which at one point of time used to be a bane. The world recognizes it to be a boon today. And the fact that our population, as the Prime Minister enunciated in his 15th August address day before, we have an under 30 population. Our demographic dividend is that 28, 29-year-old average age. And the third element is that for the next 30 years, our average age is going to continue to be below 30. That's what I call the 30-30-30 matrix. And all of this rests on the foundation of our foray in the digital world, the fact that today we produce more STEM graduates than any other country in the world, the fact that we are already the third largest startup ecosystem. A young man coming from Odisha can create a multi-billion-dollar company in less than 5-6 years. Is a story that we used to hear can only happen in the US once upon a time. China made some baby steps, but then people fast started disappearing in China. No risk of that in India. And since you also teach, the billionaires won't disappear and become professors in a university. And the fact that our young population today is driven with fire in the belly, hunger, zero starvation death, by the way, in India. And I have it in writing from every state and union territory of the country. There's zero starvation death in the country today, because the people have all reached a level of maturity, either through government support or with the new middle class and the emerging more and more people coming out of poverty. We've reached a stage where the fire in the belly is not for food. The fire is for the good things of life. And where does that fire come from? The digital world. The nook and corner of the country today is connected digitally. The last few villages in the borders and all are in terrorist infested or forest areas. We've just allotted $2.5 billion in the central government about 3 or 4 months back, so that we put up towers and take 4G across the little bit of the remote areas which is left. I dare say we have a better 4G network than the United States today. You won't get 4G connectivity in half the highways in the US, but you can have a call in the Indian Railways through a long journey. Our rollout on 5G is amongst the fastest in the world. We'll have 125 cities 5G connected probably in less than a year from now. And we've already embarked on 6G development, which only 3 other countries in the world are doing. This digital revolution, this bringing down the cost of data to the lowest in the world probably today, this fast expansion throughout the country where 900 million people have a internet connection today, which means 900 million people and almost every youngster, either on his smartphone or in his school or college Or in the worst place, he goes to a railway station and gets free Wi-Fi. We have about 6,500 railway stations where Wi-Fi is available in the country. I had an occasion once to go to Raipur late in the night, and there were probably 300, 400 kids at the railway station in different ways engaged on their phone or on their laptops because there was free Wi-Fi. Raipur. And I would say, at the risk of going wrong by a few small percentage, that almost every home in the country, rich or poor today, will have a television set either on his smartphone or a small set at his home. And I go all over the place to even tribal areas, to poor people's homes as a part of our political outreach. And somebody will have a 14-inch TV, somebody will have a 20-inch TV, somebody may, in a rare case, though I haven't of late seen any black and white TV. But by and large, poorest of the poor has managed to lay his hands on maybe a hand-me-down phone or a hand-me-down TV at least. Now what that does is connect you to the world. You see what's happening in Sydney Harbour. You see what's happening in London. You see what's happening in the Silicon Valley. And that drives ambition. That drives ideas. That drives the desire for all the good things of life. I don't know how many of you saw Padman. Did you see Padman? No, I'm very much impressed with these socially relevant themes, and I'm a movie buff, if I may add. I even saw the recent one which was based on the fears and the lack of sex education, which Akshay Kumar has just released recently. These are all real themes, and he presents it in a way that we can relate to. Now, Padman, if you look back, is a real story. Murugan, his name was, or something, from Tamil Nadu. The gentleman who had that fire in him that I want my wife to get sanitary pads. But where did he learn how to make sanitary pads, if you remember in the movie? And it's a depiction of the truth. When he was completely crestfallen, he had tried everything on earth to try and get his hands on affordable sanitary pads. Didn't have enough money. He landed up doing the job as a domestic help in an IIT Chennai professor's residence. And there he saw internet, the young lad at home using internet. And in a conversation, that young lad probably, or the television, he saw that there are ways to have very elementary machineries which can make sanitary pads at a low cost. From there, he picked up how to make sanitary pads. He made sanitary pads affordable. He met his desire that his wife should have sanitary pads. And today, the whole country, sanitary pads are available at 1 rupee. So that in a year, a person who needs it, a lady who needs it, will only have to spend about $1, $1 for a year's sanitary pads. An elementary need that everybody needed. So that's what digital technologies are doing. They are connecting the country, driving desire, driving ambition, and that's what's going to drive India to greater growth levels, and that's why it's India's decade.
Mr. Goyal, you talked about these sort of billion imaginations being unleashed in this sense, from the example you gave. The other thing which digital has also done is that it's changed the relationship between the state and the poor. And when digitization started, it was more than just Digital India. You just approved the cabinet yesterday, 14,900 crores for Digital India. But what we're talking about is much more than that. It's by itself, because for a long time, the Indian state didn't know where to find the poor, the names. And with direct benefit transfers, it's changed politics as we know it. If you can talk a little bit about that.
Well, if you recall, yesterday the Honorable Prime Minister spoke about 10 crore fake beneficiaries. And fake beneficiaries, not in the sense that he's already crossed the poverty line, so he should not get a benefit. 10 crore non-existent people who are not even born in India. There are no people of that name. 10 crore beneficiaries being weeded out thanks to technology. And we don't ever hesitate to recognize that Nandan Nilekani, the illustrious co-founder of Infosys, developed this Aadhaar concept much before we came into government. It was much misunderstood. In fact, with due respect to a very dear friend and former colleague in the Rajya Sabha, and who's very close to Nandan, I know, and please don't take it as politicizing. Sadly, they were not able to understand and appreciate the huge potential of Aadhaar when Nandan came out with it. They were not able to appreciate the huge potential of the interoperable systems that ultimately became UPI, and now we are using it for open network for digital commerce so that e-commerce also can be socialized. Sadly, they were not able to visualize its full potential and cash in on the benefits. There was also an element of a little bit of political grandstanding because two senior ministers had certain differing views. One wanted a national population register. Another was promoting Aadhaar. And in the process, the country suffered or delayed. It got delayed. But look at Prime Minister Modi. 2014, he comes into government. He invites Nandan Nilekani to come and present to him what Aadhaar, what he was hoping to do, or what is Aadhaar all about. Does Aadhaar invade into your privacy? Does Aadhaar cause the kind of disruption that we all thought it did? In our own way, we were all mistaken because it was not explained well enough to us. And look at Prime Minister's vision. After understanding, and he goes into deep tech details. After understanding it, he asked Mr. R.S. Sharma, who was involved in that process, and Nandan to talk to some of his colleagues in the cabinet. And I was also one of those who had a full briefing on Aadhaar in my office in Shram Shakti Bhavan as Power Minister. I had nothing to do with this subject. So Mr. Modi's style is he engages his team and takes a collective decision, giving everybody a chance to have a say. And from there, he picked up on Aadhaar, visualized how if we were to do financial inclusion, which was already high on his agenda as a part of the Sustainable Development Goals, recognizing that a bank account is the first basic need to empower people, because then we can deliver. Originally, the Jandan accounts were meant to deliver mudra loans. The original concept, when we just came into government, first month or so, we had started talking about financial inclusion. Our idea was the poorest of the poor should have an eligibility to draw a bank loan at affordable prices to help him stand up in life. But then Aadhaar came along and gave us a second opportunity. And then the mobile world was also fast expanding. And that's where JAM came into being. And to my mind, it's been transformational in its impact in terms of government's delivery of welfare, the direct benefit transfer. And it started during the UPA time. But there were, as Nirmala ji pointed out in her address in the no confidence motion, there were barely a few thousand transactions using this trinity when we came into government. And look at the transformation from there to where we are today, where nearly 30 lakh crores has been disbursed through the Jandan Aadhaar mobile trinity, directly into bank accounts of the people of India. 2.5 lakh crores going in for the farmers of India for Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi. Probably a few 6 or 7 or 8 lakh crores going into the poor's homes, the 4 crore poor families. And by giving a free home to 4 crore families, you've actually effectively made 4 crore families lakpatis. And for all of those in this room, particularly since we are all people who recognize the benefits of family, recognize the benefits of a decent home, having a home, having electricity in that home, having clean drinking water come in through a tap in that home, having a cooking gas connection in that home, having digital connectivity in that home, having a road leading up to your village and to that home. This entire ecosystem that a home provides is truly transformational. And I can share, for lack of time, I'm not getting into more details. I've been to some Adivasi villages, met families who've been benefited from the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, asked them if they had to do even 1 rupee of rent seeking or corruption, or any influence worked when they were selected. Influence doesn't work because the names are made public. If anybody is more deserving, he has a right to fight with his local sarpanch, irrespective of party affiliation, because all these programs are with zero discrimination. There's no fear or favor. It's not that a BJPite can say, I'm a BJP member, therefore I deserve a home before the other guy who's a member of another political party or even a supporter of another political party. It's the poorest of the poor who have the first right on the nation's resources. With that fundamental principle, 30 lakh crores being dispersed. And as a chartered accountant, I can tell you that way back, an earlier Prime Minister had said that if I disperse 100 rupees to the poor, only 15 rupees reaches the poor. I think many of us will remember it. Looking at the age profile in this room, save and except the children at the end. And sadly, we make the children sit at the end always instead of they being right in front. Because that's the future that we are working all of this for. If you look at, if we had to give 30 lakh crores out in that earlier system, with 15% reaching the poor or the beneficiaries, as a chartered accountant, I can tell you, we would have had to disburse 200 lakh crore rupees of public money. So that out of that 200 lakh, 15%, that is the 30 lakh which has reached people in their accounts. So effectively, 170 lakh crores which would have otherwise been lost in the system. And of course, government has no other source but to tax all of you. So either we would have had to tax all of you to collect that money, or the poor would never have got all these benefits, or we would have built up fiscal deficits which would have made India a banana republic, or at least brought us to our knees like some of our neighbors. So imagine, that's the difference which technology has done to India. And that's why the DBT has been not only a game changer for India, but I promise you in the next few years, this is going to be a game changer for the entire world. This will not be confined to India's borders.
So I'm so glad you started by talking about Nandan and Aadhaar, and how one of the great things about this is it happened across two regimes, right? Something happened in the previous regime and it was really shape-shifted, scaled up in a significant way.
First of all, recognized and appreciated.
So in fact, that's a question I asked the Prime Minister when he opposed Aadhaar, and I asked him that question. In fact, the first chapter of this book is about what happened in that month which you described when you were in those meetings.
I had also opposed because we were all ignorant. We did not know the whole story. And sadly, the nation was not taken into confidence of what the game-changing dimensions of this technology could be. And today, this back-end protocol that Nandan had developed is become the base not only for UPI, not only for ONDC. The concept of Aadhaar. Imagine now 9 years into in the field, working in the field, not one occasion of leakage, not one occasion where Aadhaar has become a source of misuse. Of course, there are some people who still keep cribbing about Aadhaar, but we are not those who stand on prestige or stand on a point of view which we may have had at one point of time. I remember there was that famous saying, I don't know who had said it, that if circumstances change, will you change or will you stand on your legs and say, no, I'm going to live in that my old thinking. I will not change with the times. As they say, change is the only constant in life. And we are people who are willing to learn. We learn a lot from the kids we interact with. When we go to the universities and meet children, I promise you we learn a lot. There's so many ideas which you get only from the youngsters whom we engage with. So many ideas I'll get from this book as I go through it later in the week or 2 weeks.
So, Mr. Goyal, let me ask you one more thing. You mentioned ONDC. See, we've seen how UPI exploded in ways that nobody imagined, just like Aadhaar earlier. ONDC is something you've been very intimately involved in various capacities. If you can speak a little bit about where ONDC is going and what the challenges are on that.
I just had a chat with Adil Zainul Bhai, who's also actively involved in ONDC. Just to give you a flavor of how this government works, we did a first round of fundraising. We raised 180 crores, if I'm not mistaken, on one video conference, not even a meeting. We sent some briefing notes to 14, 15 potential investors. There was one VC where the officials explained what they have conceptualized as ONDC. I don't know if Nandan was a part of that team, but Adil and a few others were. I'm opening it because I want to read out a message to you. We have cash in the bank, even now, but we are forward-looking people. ONDC has already touched about 100,000 transactions a day, but I still call it at beta testing phase. At 100,000 transactions, somebody else would have gone to town, screaming from the rooftops, 100,000 transactions, Vijay, not a small mean achievement, but I still call it at beta testing phase. Whenever they need any help, the minister is available a phone call away. The other day I got a message from them that there are 3 large companies. Okay, if I read out the message, I'll be actually disclosing privileged information. But there are 3 large players in the country who have promised to join ONDC but are going slow. I personally made calls to the owners of all those 3 groups, personally. And they're all amongst the top 10 groups of the country. It will not take you long to figure out who is in e-commerce out of those. I personally called all 3 of them, and they are personally giving me messages back on the progress that their companies are doing on ONDC. And it's not my job. I can jolly well take the view that it's the officials are doing it, Koshi and company are working on it. But that's not how this government thinks or works. This government believes that it's a collective effort. And at least 2 of them, one is an iMessage, one was a WhatsApp, which I was opening, have sent back feedback now that the message is, yaad aa gaya, ab third ko main phone karunga gaadi mein bahar jaake. Ki tumhara progress report nahi aayi. But we are getting everybody on board on it. People ask me, but it's meant for the small retailers. So why are you taking Amazon? Why are you taking Flipkart? Why are Tatas and Birlas and Airtel and Reliance and all of these also on ONDC? Because I believe if I have to socialize it and make it a success, we need big and small all to coexist. And that will give choice to consumers. Incidentally, I'm also Consumer Affairs Minister. So I can't only protect industry or business world. My largest stakeholder is the 140 crore consumers. And I keep reminding industry and people that all the time.
So on that note, let me ask you a last question, and then we'll take a couple of questions from the audience and move to the panel. One of the things in the news in the last, say, month or so has also been the issue around laptops and computers and the imports. And there's a fear that you're bringing back a license permit, Raj. How would you respond to that critique? You wish you to state.
No, I'm absolutely open to any dialogue, any discussions. I'm happy to have industry come and meet with me if required. But generally, all these discussions have been held by my colleague who's heading the Information Technology Ministry. They have gone through all the stakeholder consultations, the Indian capacity to manufacture, and we are very confident, given the capacity and the surplus capacity is not yet utilized, there will be no disruption in the availability or the price. Should any situation like that occur, we are a listening government. We are not a government who's not accessible. We'll be ready to engage with industry and look at other options also. But here is an issue which is a serious security matter. And it's not about any of the things that some of the press has been speculating, including my good friend here in his columns. Uh, please don't speculate. I can only share with you, even Tesla car is not allowed anywhere near where Xi Jinping is present, because they are very conscious of the risks of security, even from a car being present in the vicinity of the Premier of China. And India also has to protect ourselves from countries who are antagonistic to India. I'm trying to be as diplomatic as I can, whereas I'm normally not. So we have to protect ourselves, our leaders, our businesses. This morning, my wife was telling me, by the way, that how did I don't know how it happened. I'm confused. I'm going to get a check done. We were watching the news in the morning, and suddenly the television went to HDMI 1. I don't know, we had not touched any instrument like what happened just now. तो मुझे तो phone पे भी डर लग रहा है. ये भी check कराना पड़ेगा. So we are conscious that laptops are our continuous companion today. Laptops are being used for all our privileged and confidential information, and they can be quite a potent source of leakage. कल मैं DGFT में वो notification निकाल रहा था laptop का. I don't know if वो सब process जब हो रहा था हमारे department, we are all digital. All file movement, everything in this government is digital, as I hope you are all aware. We have eliminated newspapers. Even Rajya Sabha, Harivanshi will tell you, has eliminated newspapers. Paper usage. Everything is...
People thought you given a headline.
How I wish. But we've eliminated the use of paper, and I promise you, first 2-3 days, MPs were really mad at us. MPs complained, how do we ask supplementary? Rajiv, they said we can't ask a supplementary, where is the answers? I said, sorry, it's all on your website. You got to come prepared. And by the third day, nobody needed any written answers. Nobody asked us for written answers. At their home, they checked the questions, checked the written responses, came with their supplementary questions. 2 दिन लगा. और लोग सोचते थे, some of the MPs in Rajya Sabha, 80s में भी हैं कुछ लोग, तो 90s में भी हैं वैसे. पर 2 दिन के बाद किसी ने नहीं पूछा कि वो written answers क्या है. वो आज तो hawkers क्या मंदिर में भी you can do a swipe and do a donation, or just tap your card and do a donation. Temples. Hawkers are taking it. Swanidhi mein to we are encouraging, Swanidhi Yojana mein, we are funding hawkers to not only support their business, but also to digitize. And if they use digital transactions, their credit limit, their credit rating keeps getting enhanced. And they can expand their business. By the way, there's a dosa manufacturer in Ghatkopar, if any of you is interested. A dosa manufacturer who sells 300 dosas. I hope there are no tax officers here. He sells 300 dosas a day, and he runs out of it before the demand runs out. I'm told it's at about $300 a dosa. I don't know the latest price, whether it's more or less. But people are desperate to go and have a dosa there. Like sometimes I go at 2 o'clock, I land in Mumbai in the night, and I go to Jew to have pav bhaji at Shiv Sagar there. This is what powers Indian entrepreneurship. Can you calculate 300 rupees a dosa, 300 dosas a day? Any of you wants to do the math is welcome to. I continuously work with figures, so I can tell you this turnover is upward of 3 crores a year. Selling dosas on a thela outside somewhere near Ghatkopar station. That's the enterprise, and he takes digital payment, by the way.
Thanks so much, sir, for such a interesting and invigorating conversation. We have time. I think we'll just take 1 or 2 questions, and then we'll move on. Questions in the house? Ishan, and then we'll go there. 2 questions we'll take. Ishan?
देखो, हमने राज्यसभा में न्यूज़पेपर्स को बैन नहीं किया, आपने किया. I don't think both of you are journalists, I think.
Ishan is a former journalist, now a startup founder for LeaderX.
Wonderful.
So, Piyush, many compliments on laying a very good foundation as far as digital India is concerned, and you pretty much answered all the queries that I had. But a little bit of inspiration of how do we take companies, say, global? Because we still have a lot of international companies still dominating the Indian market. There are disruptors like Rohan or Vijay. But then how do we sort of make that mark? Responsible for that as well. Love and insight.
First of all, I strongly believe that those sectors and those businesses who have kept government out of their hair are the true success stories of India. Look at the IT sector. Today, the IT sector is engaged with AI, with quantum computing, with ORAM, with the latest in the world, thanks to the fact that they never went to the government and allowed government to interfere in their businesses. Our services exports, just on the technology front, is upward of $150 billion last year. The IT sector, right from Vajpayee's day, it started, if you remember, on Y2K. I wish these type of things happen all the time. Y2K was a figment of somebody's imagination, but it brought India into the global stage as far as IT is concerned. After that, there was no looking back. But the IT industry never came behind government. The only time they came behind government, during COVID, they didn't have to. We immediately reject all processes, allowed work from home, everything from SEZ. After COVID got over, I have to balance real estate, commercial properties, IT, everybody, right? I can't allow a situation where all those who have invested in these offices, commercial real estate, all of that would have been NPAs now. So I was trying to balance and say, okay, only so much work from home, this, that. It's the only time the IT industry has actually approached me. Other than that, I'm always approaching them to find out how big a target I can stipulate for them for the next year. But we sorted that out also immediately. I recognized their problem, but I explained my problem. That look, what happens to all this commercial real estate? They assured me we'll not leave that commercial real estate because it's a temporary measure. We'll continue to keep that. So as long as you do that, I continue to allow 100% work from home. I remember Rajesh Gopinathan, then MD of TCS, when I announced 100% work from home in a board of trade meeting after COVID got over. He actually put his head like this, and he was on my left in a large audience. My eye caught that, and as soon as the meeting got over, I requested him for a conversation. I said, Rajesh, why did you do this? He said, Mr. Goyal, if you don't stop this work from home quickly, 5 years from today, we won't have any professionalism or serious professionals left in the country. And we can't have kids, with due respect, please don't misunderstand me. I have 2 kids your age, equally delinquent. I mean, I don't mean to say you are delinquent, they are delinquent, sorry. Delinquent 2 kids, father. But we can't have kids, who get used to sitting at home without even showering and dressing up and going to office. And of course, we can't even have lawyers who attend court on a VC. And I tell you, today I find, except for that period when there was a lot of people quitting jobs if you tried to get them into office, now people are coming back to work in full way. And I remember, not at all trying to only talk about my son, but I remember my son, all through COVID, would go to class while he was studying in the first year of COVID, would go to his office in New York. At times he would show us his whole huge office, only guys sitting there. But he continued to go fully dressed up to go to office. My wife never allowed me in the peak of COVID to attend a single VC unless I was even wearing my jacket and my shoes. There's a certain formality to working and all that. Now, we've learned a lot of good lessons out of COVID. We are using the good things out of COVID. So I use VC extensively. Hybrid meetings have become the order of the day. But I think we should pick up the good things, but also discard the bad. And that's what is happening. The world recognizes India for its strength. You'll go global on your own strength. We can be a small facilitator, if at all. but we cannot run your businesses for you. We can help you mount missions to different parts of the world. I wish more and more companies would come forward. We'd be happy to engage our missions with you and give you opportunity to participate in slush or other things. Vijay, you all should take the lead. Why should slush be in Sweden or Finland, wherever it is? Why India cannot have the world's largest technology engagement in India with Bharat Mandapam, where I was there earlier before here. Now Dwarka coming up. We have two of the world's largest convention centers in New Delhi. We should now have the world's largest textile fair, which we'll have in February next year. We'll soon have the world's largest food fair in India. Why should it be in Dubai, who doesn't even produce anything? Why should IT be in that small, tiny nation? It should be in India. So I think that's where we have to work together. You and I are equal stakeholders. And I think we should be more connected, and you should be more demanding. Because as much you demand, we'll be able to deliver. There's a shot.
So we'll have.
I think there's a lot the sector does right now, but if you really look at the states, they give tablets to lots of youngsters, children. That's the focus area for us. So demand aggregation by the government to really kickstart and get a lot happening in the Indian market. It's something. I mean, if you look at the sourcing, it's humongous. If you could give a couple of illustrations in your vision on some of the things to demand aggregation to really kickstart some of the areas where we aren't, be it tablets, etc. that you talk
There
about.
is no better example of demand aggregation than what Mr. Modi did in his very first year in government. Who remembers? Public memory itni short hai, unfortunately. That is why we have to keep talking. Kala bhi chale jata hai. And how come my friends from the media also cannot respond to this? You, exactly. Who's that? Thank you, my friend. LED bulbs in India, again, please don't take it as a political comment, but it was lack of understanding. When Prime Minister Modi talks of Revdi culture, sorry, I'm edge of the seat because this is a program very dear to me. Prime Minister Modi always believed that energy efficiency gives better results than producing and providing energy to the people. Because for every kilowatt hour of energy you save, you are effectively saving 1.33 kilowatt hour of energy being produced. Fair comment? 20-25% losses. So he always focused on energy efficiency. All these are LED bulbs, by the way. Yeah, they're all LED bulbs. But what was India doing before 2014? India was selling 600,000 LED bulbs in a year. We had a company called Energy Efficiency Services Limited, which was procuring these 600,000 bulbs. Cost of procurement, 310 rupees per bulb. Add taxes, marketing, distribution costs, was selling for 600 odd bucks. So it became expensive. What was central government doing? Giving you a रेवड़ी. क्या रेवड़ी थी? 100 रुपए हम सब्सिडी देंगे for every LED bulb anybody buys. Right? तो 600 का 500 हो गया. अब आप सब वेट कर रहे हो. देश के 130 करोड़ लोग वेट कर रहे हैं हमारा नंबर कब आएगा उस 100 रुपए सब्सिडी के लिए. उस चक्कर में सरकार कितना देती थी? 9 करोड़ रुपए. 9 crores was the available funds which BE, Bureau of Energy Efficiency, gave to ESL to buy these bulbs. 9 crore में 3 crore administrative expense. Government है, government company है, salaries, ये सब देनी है. तो 6 लाख बल्ब साल में बेच सकते थे 500 रुपए में और आप लोग खरीदते थे. Now LED bulb of 12 watts, ये भी by the way 310 में 8 watt का बल्ब था, not even 12 watts. An 8 watt LED bulb is equivalent to a 60 watt incandescent bulb. वो लट्टू बोलते हैं पंजाब में या दिल्ली में. I'm sure you heard of lattu. Now you don't find them in the stores. You can find them in an antique store if at all. But because of that 9 crore rupee subsidy, and the world kept waiting, मेरा number कब आएगा 100 रुपए का. Country sold 6 lakh bulbs a year. First file I signed on this project was to eliminate that 100 rupee subsidy. First file on this project. Then went to the Prime Minister with the proposal. कि साहब आप हर बार बोलते हो energy efficiency. The lowest hanging fruit is an LED bulb. Street lighting, LED bulbs. Then we went to LED tube lights. Then we went to LED fans. And then the process just... We are the world's fastest adopter of LED in the world. Fastest adopter, India. 5th of January 2015, barely 7 months into government, Prime Minister Modi launched Ujala, our LED program. What did Ujala do? I had the courage of conviction that with scale, thank you young man, somebody may think that, it's a fixed match that I've set you up to ask this question. I was confident that with economies of scale, as a simple person who comes from the business world or a former investment banker, I could appreciate that if we scale this project up, costs are bound to go down. So I started talking to the industry. I can give you a 1-hour speech, but for lack of time, I'll tell you 2 or 3 elements. First, scale. Second, honesty in procurement. So complete transparent bidding. No friends or favor or any of that. Third, guaranteed payment in 30 days. You know how those 6 lakh bulbs are being paid for? Over 5 years with a quarterly installment. Why? To ensure the quality is good. Now, कोई आप में से अगर किसी ने गवर्नमेंट को सप्लाई किया है तो आप इमेजिन करिए 20 बार for a supply of water, let's say 20 times if you have to go to government to get payment. जूते घिसेंगे वो तो अलग है, बाकी जो करना पड़ता था. When I asked them, suppose I pay you 30 days into your bank account, how much will that $310 reduce? Anybody wants to hazard a guess? Just by advancing the payment from quarterly 5-year installment to 30 days into your bank account, my personal mobile available with every of the suppliers, that if on the 30th day the RTGS doesn't reach you, call me directly, nobody else in the system. How much did that one step reduce the cost? Any guesses? 20%? That's $60. 100 rupees. The gentleman who gave me that information, of course, he lost his company because he didn't run it well and went out of business. Not because of LED, by the way. All LED manufacturers are minting money. Whether it's today, Crompton, Havells, Surya, Wipro, you name the company making LED bulbs. $100 reduction only with this small step. What did I do? I said, you give us a bank guarantee. Baad mein, after 2 or 3 supplies, we started reducing that bank guarantee or paying it back. And afterwards, we stopped that bank guarantee. 30 days payment assured. First tender was 50 lakh bulbs, if I remember correctly. Second or third was 2 crore bulbs. 2 crore bulbs, Philips supplied 12 watt, not 8 watt, at 38 rupees a bulb, from 310 to 38. And then the rest is history. 3 or 4 years, India is today a completely LED nation. And one aside to the story, and God has his divine ways. That year in Davos, at one of the luncheons, by sheer coincidence, Philips Lighting World CEO was in the chair next to me. And I gave him my fancy spin. 5th January launch kiya tha. This was 20th or 22nd. Because I had to come back by 24th. I was the minister in waiting for Obama that year. So I remember it was 20th or 22nd January. लंच पे मैंने उसको पूरी विजन बताई हमारी एलईडी की. उसने सुन लिया, बात ही खत्म हो गया. Matter over, chapter over. I also forgot. 2 years later, I was still power minister. I remember Shram Shakti Bhavan में I get a request. Philips CEO wants to meet you. मुझे लगा जरूर कोई प्रॉब्लम होगी, नहीं तो सरकार के पास कौन आते हैं प्रॉब्लम के बगैर. So I started finding out in the ministry कोई पेमेंट ड्यू है, फिलिप्स का कुछ प्रॉब्लम है क्या है, कुछ नहीं. So when he came into the room, I asked him, how come any particular issue? How come you come here? He said, Mr. Goyal, you've forgotten. I was at the table next to you at Davos 2 years ago. You gave me the whole spin about, your vision on LED. I thought it's some new rookie young minister who's come into India. They looked at India as a underdeveloped, backward country. I said, I honestly looked at it, phaka maar raha hai in Bombay's language. And making a grand vision and without any base. He said, I've only come to acknowledge that I was wrong that day. In my mind, he had never told me that as I was a minister, wo bichara kya bolta. But he said, I've only come to acknowledge and tell you that I never imagined India could do what under Mr. Modi you have done with economies of scale, and the bulbs today also are available at a price in which the payback with electricity saving is 3 to 4 months at best.
Right. Mr. Goyal, thank you so much. That's a very good note. Can we give him a big hand, please? And may I also now invite, we are really short of time, Harivanshji, the other esteemed panelists, Vijay, Rohan, Raj, Apramya on stage for a photo op. And then we start with the panel and to get on with the rest.
We are very proud of the work. I was one of the first to join crew by the way.
Wait.